welcome to the Friday. This is Friday, July the 31st, and we're recording this for you in 2020, the year that wasn't with coronavirus. And welcome. I'm Richard Clear, your host, and this is Matt Holker, who is the regional organizer for Maryville, Tennessee, outside of Knoxville. With us today also is Art Don and
Washington, D.C. suburbs in Maryland. Hey, everyone.
And welcome. And Phil in Columbus, Georgia.
That's it.
Phil Chan, yep. And Sheila Bell in Costa Rica. She can tell you what part.
In Guanacaste. Hello, everyone.
Chris Walsh and you can tell them what town's in Maine.
It's in Hollowell, Maine, just outside of Augusta.
And Harry Legg in Verona, New Jersey, outside of New York City.
Hello, hello. All right.
And Daniel Stringer in outside of Paisley, and tell them where else they're in Florida, outside of Orlando.
Yeah, we're outside of Orlando. We're in Paisley, and the next biggest town over is DeLand.
Cool. Welcome, welcome. All right. So we left off last week on, if you haven't listened to last week's, go listen to last week's. We were talking about the Clear Tai Chi basic skills, or level 1, as it's known, and why these skills form the basics of the program. And we went through the rationale behind the short sets, Wu Chi, and really some fairly important things about that. And then the energy ball check, and really about feeling the energy and how that's in our program, and then used, and how these things are used both at level 1 and then in more advanced parts of the program, and that kind of thing, to give people some introduction to it, some understanding of the curriculum itself. And before I go any further, a word from our sponsor. And so we have a $47 a month online program, and a $495 Clear Tai Chi level 1 package, where you can just buy the package outright and own it. And you can do that online, or you can get the DVDs, your choice. And for any of that, go to www.clearmartialarts.com. And then anything else for that?
That is, we've been talking about the level 1 material, and so that is how you get the level 1 material. That $47 a month program is step by step. Train along with the system. It should take somewhere like 3 to 6 months. For people who are working with us live here, it's normally like 3 to 4 months. If you're doing it long distance, maybe more like 5 or 6. But in that kind of time frame, it happens pretty quickly. And then that really gets you ready for just real internal Tai Chi work. It gives you all the building blocks for that, and it happens very, very quickly in our system. And so, clearmartialarts.com.
Check it out. Cool. Was there anything, since we talked about it last week, was there anything that occurred to any of you about that you would like to have said that you didn't say before we get into the more of the meat of what we're talking about today? Nope. Okay, good. All right. So the next item that we're talking about that's in the level 1 Clear Tai Chi program is breath. And it's breath coordinated with the movement. And this is the beginning breath method. We do a lot more with breath throughout our curriculum, including in the intermediate. We start getting a lot more into whole body breathing and into deeper aspects of breathing for longer term health and internal power and applications and all of that. And so with this, there's a point that I want to address, because we do get into breath right up front like that. And today, and I was originally taught like that. One of the very first things that Tyrone, my first teacher for Tai Chi, showed me, the first one that really showed me Tai Chi in depth, was breath and breathing stuff for Tai Chi specifically. And one of the most common things that you hear a lot of people in Tai Chi today say is that don't focus on your breath in Tai Chi, that Tai Chi, no breathing method and all of that. And what I'm going to tell you is that having talked to other older masters and my original teachers and the other teachers that I've had longer term since then, this is not the old way. The idea that you would not do some specific breath training the old way doesn't do that. There is specific in-depth breath training. In the original curriculums, the masters had at least 5 different, like in a 20, in the old original Chin stuff from over 100 years ago, where they've really got it laid out. Now, this is the indoor secret stuff, but that's primarily what we teach. And there's like 24 levels that are full. You put some time into each one of these levels. And 5 of those levels specifically are breath-oriented levels, where it's different breath things. Now, in the highest level with that, you learn how to do it with your mind to move your internals in the ways that you've been doing it with breath up until that point. And so one of the things when you get people who are Tai Chi teachers that have learned from people is they go, oh yeah, no, it's not breath, it's not breath. And what they fail to tell anybody that they're talking to publicly, and what they fail to tell most of their students is that, yeah, eventually it graduates to where it's not really breath oriented, it's mind oriented. But it doesn't start that way, because otherwise you're trying to manipulate something with your mind. You don't even know what it is. And so you can't skip like the essential basics and hope to get the skills. It's kind of like saying you left the tires off the car because, you know, that's not what makes the car run. So we don't need any tires. Let's go down the road. There's a problem. The car is not going to move, or it's not going to move very far and very well, right? And I've got here, it's like trying to do Olympic high jumps. When you can't crawl, walk, or run, if somebody was crawling doing it, they'd be like, oh no, don't crawl. Or if they were walking, no, you're gonna have to do the high jumps, don't walk. Or if they were just running and tried to, you can't run, but they're not gonna be doing high jumps. And they're like, do the high jumps. Well, you have to be able to walk, crawl, walk, and run to do the high jumps. And it's the same thing. It's not like there's a little bit of breath training. There's a whole good amount and some very important things. And if you've been watching our podcast here, go back to the one on coronavirus where we're really talking about the whole body breathing and the things you have to do with that. And then think, no, I'm not going to do any of that training. I'm just going to magically do it with my mind. And then it becomes, well, no wonder Chi seems like something that's unreal to people. They don't have a way to relate to movement inside the body that begins with things like breath. And you really do have to do the work. I don't understand why people do this anyway. So here's the other thing I've got on here for breath. Try exerting with your breath. If you're a person watching this, you're going to know it really is, you don't need to breathe and just use your mind. And you've never had breath training of any kind that was appropriate in Tai Chi anyways, or much breath training at all, then try exerting with your breath to move a very heavy object. Now, do it using only your mind, and don't use your breathing, and don't hurt yourself. Because if you keep doing that, and you haven't had the training for really using your breath and having your mind tied to it like that, in other words, through the stages of it, you're going to hurt yourself if you keep going. So please don't do that. Begin by using your breath. Train your breathing with many, many different applications so that you really can apply the breath. Yeah, so learn how your mind works and how the breath works, and then how they coordinate and how to use it, and now appropriately graduate as you're able and appropriately. And we have it structured in our program to do exactly that. And those are the steps. And you really don't want to skip them if you're really going to have high level skill.
Yeah, but if you haven't done the work at the level 1, at the level 1 level, I mean, you could really the breath training even in the intermediate is pretty accessible, I would say, but don't skip steps like what he's saying.
The one where I've got you in the level 1 in the basic skills, and it really is about coordinating, filling and emptying, and coordinating that breath with your movement. That is in there because it is such a fundamental. Even whenever you're doing any other stuff, you need to be able to hook that up to your body and to your brain, to your mind, and those kind of things. And so the building block for that really is there in our level 1 in a big way. All right. Any other?
Yeah, Sifu, so do you know, in the level 1 course, do you know where that's described as far as the coordination goes?
Yeah, it literally is. It's in the basic skills section of the level 1 material, and it's called breath coordinated with movements.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Cool. Yep. Anybody else about breath?
I just wanted to weigh in briefly because I had actually asked for the breathing. There's 3 DVDs together.
Yeah, I've got a separate breathing program that's
Right.
Yeah.
And so I got that when we were in Boca. And so I've been working on that. And I've really enjoyed the Body Sparks, the middle one, because I'm specifically working on a little bit of the physical constitution aspect. And it's like magic. I mean, I cannot tell you how hard it's been for me to recuperate of a disc problem that I had to do push-ups and to be able to do push-ups. And I've like specifically been working on it a couple of years. And all of a sudden I get the Body Sparks DVD and it's like nothing. But why? It's because of the breathing. And the breathing, I mean, seriously, I cannot emphasize how different it feels. Like you're saying, to move like a heavy object with the breath. I'm doing push-ups like it's my favorite thing.
Cool.
So thank you for that. And go ahead.
No, please finish.
No, just that was my main message, was that it's not even just for doing the form or for the internal energy, but also if you just want to flat out do something strong and work on it as.
Yeah, you can take breath when you know for the breathing methods that are used by the Tai Chi and whole body breathing. I can take breath and take people doing, at least 50% of like everything else there is. And if they're just not breathing, but they're doing whatever the other thing is, I don't have to do anything else, nothing else. And yet having, I'm structured decently because you're standing there, but in terms of like turning on any other skills, as long as that breath is really done well, it makes a big difference right now. Yeah. Go ahead, Daniel.
Well, just to piggyback off of what Sheila's saying is, I'd done martial arts for a long time before I came to Sifu Clear, and there's a combat breath. I think it's a couple DVDs, but it's one of the first things that I was exposed to, and then I had questions when I first met Sifu, and it's like, hey, can you show me this in real time? And what blows me away is not just the power but the versatility of the study. I mean, there's just so much, doing martial arts, you hear, breath is important, breath is this, and using breath, and the ways that he has in the curriculum, us using breath and the amount of benefits, like Sheila's saying, it just blows my mind. So anyone who is a martial artist that is like, I've heard about breath, don't take it lightly, because there's so much more in that than you can even imagine, honestly.
Are we still on?
Yeah, you're good.
I'm sorry. Yeah, like Daniel says, though, as somebody that that came from the external arts, there was just basic breathing and basic, applying breath with force, and a lot of the arts, are so they know it's an issue because they have you yelling or expressing energy when you strike, but they don't go into the deeper breathing or the breathing through the diaphragm and the cleansing breathing, actually being able to breathe away pain, which is another very interesting part of the curriculum. But I know, as you mentioned, going through the COVID, I think that's probably one of the things that's helped me the most to recover. My particular circumstance, I think the COVID attacked my lungs and I wound up with pneumonia. And then I also lost the use of my right diaphragm in breathing. So everything is coming back. I was just on the phone with the pulmonologist, and he said there's a drastic improvement from the first x-rays to the second x-ray and then the CAT scan. So it is showing, this type of deep breathing and the relaxation, filling the lungs, trying to get the diaphragm working again. So
Was he surprised about how much difference there was between the two?
it sounded like it, yeah. So he said it's really clearing up the. They describe it as spots in the lungs and mucus sacs, I guess they are.
Yeah.
But it's all. It's a great skill to have and to rely on, and like I said, especially if anybody has ever dealt with pain and breathing away pain, it's been around for a long time, the philosophy, but to hear it explained in such a coherent fashion is really beneficial.
One person told me the secret to living forever: keep breathing.
And I've actually, unfortunately, seen it, in the last throes of life. They talk about an infant learns to breathe through his belly, and then as you get older, you tend to become more of a chest breather. And then, at the very end, you hear somebody breathing, and they're breathing through their throat almost. It's, so it is, there is some, some truth to the whole, to the whole philosophy.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you.
I have, I guess, sort of a question when you talk about the importance of breath and, well, doing the form, for example. And does it necessarily relate to, for example, a rollback defensive posture, inhale, and an outward aggressive application? Would you exhale necessarily, or is that sort of the general way to go to get used to breathing with the postures, and then after that, it's not necessarily as important whether you inhale or exhale at a particular point, or is it just
different levels that in the beginning it's easier to have it not like not this kind of a thing, but definitely if I'm withdrawing and pulling in, I'm going to be breathing in really deeply, and if I'm going out, I'm going to be breathing out. And then in the beginning, to get people to be able to really get used to it and hook up their mind to it, then there's some more overt things where you're really breathing out, and where you can tell, and there's that internal kind of a squeeze because of the breath being put out, because you're breathing out like that and all of that. And then the further along you go, the more deep and the more whole system and the more less overt and obvious it is. It becomes much more subtle, and it becomes about filling up and emptying and filling up where you're moving that, and eventually that your mind is doing much more of that manipulation. But because you really are familiar, like not just like kind of familiar, you really know what's happening with those internal things, and because you're so used to that, you're then able to direct it at the speed that you can think, which is a whole lot faster than we can mostly physically do anything, except for spontaneous what's the word I'm looking for? Nervous system kind of stuff, where you don't think about it, your body just has a response. And those are very, very fast, but they're operating at closer to the speed that your mind does. And so it's a process to get from kind of overt, like you're talking about, to get to this really subtle mind-directed thing. And you really have to go through the steps. If you do, then yeah, the more advanced, you'll think, reflex, thank you. Yeah, you'll think that, at the advanced, you would think that you weren't doing it, but you still really are. It's just that now your mind is actually much more directing it, and your internals are then following those commands. And your speed of mental operations increases to the point where, once you're hitting about 25 operations per second, you can't physically move that well unless it was just direct reflex. But because you're so in tune with your body in very specific kinds of ways that Tai Chi does, your body is able to, internally is able to follow those commands and work at that speed or much faster even, at least 50 to 100 operations per second. But there's ways you have to train to that, and we do. And all Tai Chi ultimately does, and it starts to look supernatural only because it's so much stuff that's happening so quickly, and the way that you're able to connect inside your body and to the surface of your body and to what's around you doing that. And so that doesn't make it not something that's quite unusual and mind oriented towards a psychic level, but it's not as out of thin air as it normally looks like to people. There's a lot going on there, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Thank you.
So the one like little bit that I'll add to that for like absolute beginners, because we're trying to talk about the beginner level of this stuff, is that the way that it starts is, well, in the level 1 program, by attaching the breath to your movement and by really feeling that and exploring that, and not just have it be dogmatic, rigid, principled, like, well, I'm moving this way, so I breathe this way, but really feeling that connection and feeling that driving force. What ends up happening is that you get it at kind of a standardized level there, and then as you explore different energies and different flavors of doing the form, more often than not, the breathing pattern is going to be pretty similar, but every once in a while it'll surprise you, and there will be a move where you'll want to breathe differently somehow because the energy is moving differently. And you'll notice that, and as you start to put these pieces together, you build this sort of catalog of breath-connected energy, and it really graduates to the level that Sifu Clear is talking about, where it becomes mind-directed energy. But you really have to go through these stages in order to get there, and it starts very simple. And so when you go through the stages, it seems like, well, but when you get to the end, it seems like, well, of course it should have this effect. I'm doing all these things. But if somebody hasn't seen that training progression, or they don't know what you've done to get there, it becomes this thing that looks like magic, because it's like he barely did anything.
The other one I found is that when I've had hands-on with somebody that really thinks oh no, you don't need the breath, and I've got it at the mind level, and they basically didn't do any breathing training steps for what are appropriate to Tai Chi, I put hands on them and only use breath. And I mean, I'm there with what else I've got, but I'm not trying to root. I'm not trying to use any specific Jing training. I'm not using my mind in an extra kind of a way other than I normally would standing there. I'm really using breath as a driving thing. And normally they've got nothing for it. Like it's like they don't have any skill, even if they had some skill. And it's because they can't, their breath training is not there. And so just an appropriate use of breath exceeds what they have, just because they don't have that. And then when you tell them and then I've commonly found that at that point when I go, look, man, what I'm really using on you right now is breath, and they've got this idea that, no, there's no breath training in Tai Chi. They tend to get bent out of shape. And I'm just like, do the breath training and you'll be fine. And I won't be able to do what I just did to you. I'll actually have to use some skill. And,
I mean, to put it in perspective, these people are really kind of saying that this is like the one area of Tai Chi where you just skip the Li level altogether. And I don't know of anything else where like you really do that in Tai Chi. So I don't know why you would do it with the breath training, but they seem to think that that's...
Well, and it's a connection for your breathing to your body and your breathing to your mind, and then your body to your mind, and then having all of that line up, and then to your spirit, and all of that really, mind, body, spirit type stuff, and that it's all interacting, and that there's a familiarity there, integrated through and through, and you just have to do the steps to have it. If you completely skip the step and you really don't know what the thing is, you can't leapfrog it. It just won't work out. I've not seen anybody that could just do it and they hadn't done the training. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So I will throw out one last little point on this, which is more just from a sort of a, I guess, just a different perspective, a little bit of a Western scientific perspective on the matter, is that if we're trying to really access that mind-body realm and really get good control over our bodies with our minds, and that's the whole point, breath is a really great place to start doing that, because it is one of these sort of semi-autonomic systems that can run on its own when you're not thinking about it. You just breathe naturally. Like when you're asleep, you're breathing. You're not thinking about breathing. It's happening on its own. But you can take over and control the process with your mind. But right now, you have that ability to do that. And so you have the ability to access, you know, that mind-body connection through the breath really immediately. And so to ignore that system completely is, in my opinion, just foolish. It's one of the same reasons why Tai Chi and other martial arts look at the eyes, and you know why sleepy eye is a big thing, and sleepy eye to wide eye and these kinds of things is that blinking process is another one of those body things that will happen on its own for you, but you can take over and force it to happen in various ways. And so having control over that system, like really great control over that system, is a great start for accessing those mind-body skills at a higher level. And breath is like probably the best one that the body has for doing that.
And by force, he doesn't mean strength and tension. He's saying that I want to do this movement over here, so I'm doing this movement over here. Or I want to breathe in, so I'm telling myself, breathe in, and I'm filling up. I want to breathe out, and then, you know, those kind of things, not force like Gerber. Yeah. Cool. Anybody else? All right, so so we do have that this set on breath that I don't know what the email address is for that.
I'll find it.
Or not email, but the web address for that is.
There is actually.
And then we got the $47 a month online program and the $4.95 where you can just buy the whole level 1 package. You can either get it in DVDs or online. And that's at www.clearmartialarts.com.
Yeah.
And
I'm pretty sure it's at breathhealing.com.
breathhealing.com, and that should have it.
Type it in correctly.
I got everybody here looking
Yeah,
it
it's
up.
breathhealing.com, yes.
Cool. If you want just the breath stuff, but there's more. There's a lot more in there than just Tai Chi breathing in that 3 video set. But if you did that work and then you come back to the Tai Chi breathing for at least the first couple levels, you're going to have a big leg up, because you're going to know a lot more about, you know, breathing over as a whole, and then it's going to be easier to work with. And there's other stuff in there. So, all right. The first Jing that I learned originally was electric. And this is in the late 1970s, early 1980s. And to do electric requires that you have whole body connection. So you have to have whole body connection. Of course, doing the one where we were talking about with the breath connected in your body helps for that. I'm sorry, I skipped something there. We're going to come back to that. So fluid, connected, and unbroken. So we'll come back to that. All right, so fluid, connected, and unbroken. The whole form moves as one piece. If you're going to use Tai Chi for real, for even just physical things around the house and helping you do things and balance and walking and like that, this is if you were like elderly and needing all those kinds of benefits from the Tai Chi, or you had arthritis and you're trying to rehab that with Tai Chi. Or you're using it in a more martial context, that kind of a thing. One of the important aspects is that Tai Chi is not a disjointed collection of pieces. It is one continuous movement. I'm talking about like the form. So it's not like do the first move and stop. Do the second move and stop. It isn't that. People have to learn that way because they can only take in so much information at a time. But ideally, Tai Chi is when you have a form, it's one continuous movement, like a snake moving around or a dragon swimming, flying through the clouds, where you don't stop flying because then you fall out of the sky. right? And it's continual, and there are no gaps or breaks in your movement. There are no gaps or breaks in your breathing. It's a continuous loop. So it's not like breathe in, breathe out. This would be incorrect, right? And so you begin to cycle breath in, and it sort of loops inside of you to going back out and loops to coming back in, like that. And you get it so that it's never a sharp in point. It's a rolling point of out, in, or in this case, up, down, in, out, and like that, where it's continuous in that way. And the other part of that about this, and this is going towards a high level, that there are also no gaps or breaks in your mind. So when I'm looking for this, when I test for it, not for basic skills, as long as they basically got it flowing through okay. If I test you at the intermediate level for what we're talking about right now, I quit looking for breaks in your movement. I don't completely quit looking for it. If you have a dead stop somewhere, like you're so used to stopping there and it's not supposed to happen, I'm going to pick that up. But it's not the primary thing I'm looking for, because that should really not exist at that level, because you tested out of that in level 1 and had correction for it. What I'm looking for is, are there any gaps in your mind? I find quite commonly that people will move up where it's supposed to roll to the down and get to the bottom, and roll around to come up and over, and then roll in. And even though they're moving towards that idea, there still is up, down. And you heard that little pause right there. And what happens is, in their mind, they still had a stop or a gap. And you want that gone. And so we have in level 1, the swimming dragon. And the swimming dragon is designed to help to get proper body coordination and to help you to be more relaxed through and through. And it's also designed to take and get the stops out, because ideally the swimming dragon, if you just think about swaying around and back and forth continuously without an endpoint, and you do your form like that, if you haven't trained the continuousness, you'll find it really hard to do. Your body will keep trying to stop at certain places and kind of get its bearing to do that, because you're not used to doing it yet. And so the swimming dragon is helping you to get that body coordination, and then also to get that continuousness, and this idea that in your mind it's out, in, out, left, rolling to right, or I'm going to the right there, to left, rolling to right, this kind of a thing. And that the rolling is really part of the whole thing. I'll just use that word for now. There's more to it than that, or other aspects. But that there is that continuousness. That would be the word I would rather use. Without breaks, unless it's somewhere that's designated, the form should stop. You know, if it's a long form, you're doing sections, well, there's a place where it should stop. Or if for some reason on this move in your style or whatever, they normally stop. For our stuff, it's that if you're going, that almost stops. And if you think about that, it's a martial art, at what point in the martial art do you stop? And it better be when the other person can no longer attack you. Because if you stop before that, they're still attacking you, you've got a problem, right? So you stop when it's over. Anyways, swimming dragon also helps you to release every bit of unwanted tension, including the mental tension. And you wouldn't think of a stop initially as being a tension, but a stop longer term trained in becomes a tension just in the act of stopping. In other words, a body in motion normally wants to stay in motion. And so if you start stopping, you're actually adding something in there that ideally isn't there. You know, unless it's an appropriate, I'm done. And even then, it's a settling, not a stopping. And that settle gets to a point where it becomes very still. And it's that, and the stillness and motion part starts to come into play. Anyways, you guys get the idea. I wanted to give you a chance to really talk about that.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
For those of you who are interested in internal power and want a reliable place to start, and for anyone who wants to experience internal power for themselves, go to internalpowerguide.com. I built a crash course in hands-on internal power. The practical guide to internal power is a work at your own pace online program. It is the course I use to get students from 0 to 60 as quickly as possible, and it is totally free. So sign up at internalpowerguide.com now and get started right away. That's internalpowerguide.com.
Well, one of the first things that comes to mind for me is in the combat training, where say you intercept a punch, and if you stop, you have a problem sending that person right back out or returning that. But if it's nonstop fluid motion, off they go flying if you do it right. So there's just one concrete little example.
In case you can't see this, he's talking about literally that the person is throwing a punch at you, you intercept them coming towards you, and literally reverse the direction, and they go flying out and away from you. And when people first experience it like that from Tai Chi, it was one of the first applications that I remember Tyrone really showing me, was roll back and push, where it did that. And it was, you can't stop. If you do, it will not work. And when people feel it, where it's really that in, out, and it rolls into it, and there's not a stopping, their mind gets blown. It's how on earth did you do that? Because I was coming at you like that. All I felt was like I went, you know, I was flying away from you and I was coming at you. That just doesn't even make sense. How did that? And it felt like I was touching air. How did that happen? And it does that, and if you stop, it's broke. They're still going to keep coming at you, or at the very least, they're going to stop in place for that moment. And it doesn't have that effect that really has that supernatural quality to it. I was coming at you at speed with power, and now I'm flying away from you the same way. And I didn't feel you do much of anything to me. That's just weird, right? And so, but that's part of how Tai Chi is able to do, and what it's training to do, is to be able to do that. Not that you always want them going back the other way. Maybe you want to bring them all the way in so that they go, you know, that you make a hole in the space and you put them in it. Is a little slightly more common for really using it for self-defense, but you need to be able to transmute and change and redirect in all kinds of different ways that go to what you just said. Cool. All right.
I think that's, with a lot of the newer students, that's probably one of the biggest aha moments that I see. You know, when you start teaching them, you teach them the first move, the second move, the third move, at the point where, you know, you can show them that there really is there's dozens of movements in between those two movements that, you know, as the body is moving, he's able to pick up another strike, another block, or another application somewhere in the middle, and it bridges the two movements, you know, so it's, you know, that leads to them developing a little bit more of that fluidity, or that swimming dragon, as you had mentioned. So that's
if you internally do the swimming dragon really well in push hands, where it's so subtle that somebody wouldn't know it, it's fun to watch without having to use basically any other real skill with it. And you see people, like, they start stumbling all over the place, and they're like, how are you doing that? You know, especially if they can pick up on the fact that you're really not moving that much, but it's that continuous movement inside, and then using it in what you're doing without any tensions or stops anywhere. And it has impressive martial quality to it. And then it's really good for you inside, health-wise too, because health-wise, if you stop, that's what disease and stuff is trying to do to you. It's trying to lock up in there and grab a hold and be stuck. And if you've got it where it will continuously move like that and flow through, and think of it as towards a flushing idea, and to get it to go back out instead of finding a place to land and grab a hold of you. Cool. Other, Chris?
Yeah, so one of the experiences that I've had with stopping, when I'm going through the form and I'm doing well with the form, and then something happens and I stop, maybe it's my mind that's stopping, or something just I physically stop, I feel that my energy is not stopping. but by stopping, it's changing somehow the direction of where the energy was originally intended to go. And I'll be pulled off balance. And it's just from stopping. It's subtle, but I feel it.
Yeah, no, it happens. That's right.
So it's another way that I felt that energy and the effect of the disconnect from stopping, what stopping creates.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it creates an imbalance in the system.
Yeah, it's Seafood Clear is about to talk about the energy connection and all that, but all these things do build, like these are like building blocks for the Tai Chi at the level 1 stage, and they all do sort of reinforce each other, and you're going to find that your experience with one really improves your experience with another, which then improves your experience with another one, which then improves your experience with the first one, and it becomes this sort of never-ending process of improvement. Like somebody was describing it as this sort of like constantly expanding spiral. Like I think of it as a Fibonacci spiral, or like a Fibonacci sequence. But I'm a math nerd. But anyways, that. You get the idea. It's that all the pieces reinforce each other, so that it becomes where what is it, that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Cool. All right. The first Jin I learned was electric, and like I said earlier, I learned that in the late 1970s, early 1980s. And to do electric requires that you have that whole body connection, right? And that there's enough soft relaxation with good structure for the electricity to be unimpeded, running around your body basically, and flowing all. And when I mean that, your whole body as a unit. And the whole body connection does so many great things from you that just, where would I even begin? Because anytime you don't have whole body connection, basically you're short-circuited in different kinds of ways, and then the problem with that over time exacerbates. And one of the biggest differences that you see for people that are over the age of 60 and their body really is got what you think of as like Tai Chi masters having, is that the whole body connection with the whole body breathing, with that continuity and the not stopping and everything being so that it can move and be fully emptying and filling and working like that, it really makes just a gigantic difference in terms of the health. And then your whole body connection with that integrates that body to mind and the connection. And so, and then the electric, you're doing that kind of whole body connection work in order to make sure that because if you don't, and you're really trying to do the electric where you're feeling the energy that way, feel the energy, then what happens is that it ends up not being on. You can feel that it's disconnected and all of that. And so it's a good marker of actually being able to feel what's going on and know that you're getting the benefit from it, right? And the electric itself, it's really great for helping with arthritis. It's like the primary thing. There are other things, but it's like the first one I learned from that, and it really does make a difference. The opposite of electric, by the way, is the magnetic. And with electric and magnetic, you have a yin and yang pair. And they're key, having that pair is key to higher level internal Tai Chi skill, really understanding how those two energies work, being able to really turn them on and use them and all that stuff. And this includes internal flow and circulation of your blood and energy, internal stretch, which you don't hear a lot of people talk about that, but if you start looking at things that are talking about Tai Chi in very higher level ways, you start seeing things where it's talking about internal stretch, specifically of your spine and your tendons. And there are many, when you have this going on, and it's correct, there are many, many great health benefits and also many internal fighting benefits. And then you work on in the training and in the body of the training and with what we do in our curriculum, it's understanding and manipulating yin and yang, which is a very high level skill. You won't find high level guys that if they know you've got that won't say that's high level stuff. But for our program, it's introduced well at the beginner level like this. And then we do work with it in a number of different classes in the intermediate level, level 2. And then it's understood that you have a command of this, and then other advanced actions and understandings and manipulations and uses and connections and adding more different kinds of energetic expressions and mind interactions with it. When you get into the more advanced curriculum, then it becomes deeply internal and then has some really profound and important benefits with health and with your ability to use and manipulate internal power, and then obviously martially as well, ultimately. Tai Chi takes kind of a longer path to that than almost any other martial art, but it is there to be had, and it's in our curriculum. And it's taught, it's shown pretty early. At the same time, we don't expect you to have a command of it until you've been doing it for a good while, because of what it is for the martial part. For the rest of that, some of those health things, I want people to get it going on as fast as they can and in a real way, not in a, hey, do your form, magically, somehow you'll be healthy. If that's the case, get up and go take a walk. Magically, you'll be healthy as you would just running through movements, don't know what you're doing. And so breath coordinated with the movement. Oh, I'm sorry, no. Fluid, connected, and unbroken. The whole form moves as one connected piece. I'm sorry, thank you. I'm going through my list here. This is about electric Jing, and then the whole body connection that we were talking about using electric Jing. All right, I want to give you guys a chance to weigh in on that to whatever degree. And okay.
Nobody? Well, so Sifu, you mentioned the opposite of electric being magnetic, and there's this yin and yang quality, and that there is this, that at the higher level that you have to have both of those kind of going on and be able to sort of mix them and in various ways and really understand fully like every aspect of both of those properties. And really be able to go back and forth. And so at the beginning level, in our basic skills program, we do have that going on. But you'll find that more and more and more that happens throughout the curriculum, and not just with this pair of skills, with almost every like yin and yang kind of pair that you can get, like opening and closing, and other things like that.
One of the more important ones, in my opinion.
And it's
because it's got to do with basic health as well as obviously other.
Almost like they thought that concept was important or something.
He's showing the yin and yang grand terminus symbol.
Yeah.
The one you think of as being the Tai Chi symbol.
Anyway.
Well, excuse me then, if magnetic and electric are yin and yang, is magnetic the yang and electric yin, or?
No, I would say that the magnetic is yin. Think about it, it's pulling inward like that, and the track.
Okay, sure, right.
And then electric is pushing out and expanding and expressing and that kind of a thing. And so it's
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in the very beginning, when I was working with the basic program, I didn't feel any energy at all. And I was a little discouraged by the whole thing. But after going through, and I don't remember where in the program, but going through the program and hearing the concept of magnetic, I realized that I actually was feeling this energy. I just wasn't aware of it. And having it presented in the way it was in the basic material made me realize that what I was feeling was magnetic. And I was like, oh boy, I'm feeling this the whole time. And that kind of like just opened up the door to the rest of it, that first feeling.
Yes. What happens is most people, some people come in and they've got different things from life that make it so that they can't feel energy, and that they have to basically figure out how to remove the blockages and all of that. And so there's sometimes that goes on. The other thing that happens then is that most people have the ability to feel the energy and they have some sensation, but then their body and their mind have a very specific frequency and way that their body normally interacts with the environment around them. And so let's say you're saying you had a magnetic thing kind of going on automatically, and that you didn't have to think about. And so then you're trying to do something that's very, and like an electric, to do that as an early one, that's pretty the opposite of that. And you're going, I'm having trouble. That's not quite feeling exactly right. Those kind of things. And so what happens is that it's just that yours was magnetic as a natural. Most people, you have a magnetic personality. Yeah. Most people would have, that wouldn't be their normal energy state. And so they're not going to run into that. But what happens is that you do the training like you did, and then at some point you turn into one, like we have magnetic in there. You started doing that, and like that's what the Wudong energy ball, where you're doing the magnetic to electric, and then you went, oh, wait a minute, I'm feeling that like wow, or because of that you were working the magnetic to electric, you may have been like, well, the magnetic feels really easy to me. Wow, that electric is doing something now. And so you begin to then be able to distinguish and actually get your personal sensitivity developed so that now you can feel these different things, and it's how your body's going to initially interpret it because of whatever you have going on naturally like that. And then it's going to expand from there, and then you're going to find out how to put your body and your mind and everything at neutral with the ability to go wherever you want to take it. You're still going to have your natural affinity, your natural energy kind of signature, that kind of stuff. It's just going to be that you have the ability to, if that one was overriding everything else, to put it in a proper perspective, to be able to fully work the whole scope and spectrum of the energy. Your natural affinity is probably going to stay your natural affinity unless there's some odd reason why that's what's going on, and then it's going to balance out.
But it's another great example of how all the pieces of the system reinforce each other, because no matter what your natural affinity is coming in, there's a piece in there that's going to balance that out for you, and that it's going to draw that out for you, and that's going to help you discern that and play with it more and all of that, and play to your strengths, but also build up and strengthen your weaknesses. And all of that is built into the system, no matter like who you are coming in the door.
Yeah.
It's all accounted for. And so, it's a little more unusual that someone has that like stronger affinity for the magnetic, but even if you do, it still works.
It's covered in the program in a way so that it's accounted for.
Yeah. Harry, are you going to?
Sure. One of the other things that's really nice to use electric for, especially when you are beginning in the level 1 curriculum, and once you pretty reliably feel it, know what it is it helps you self-correct when you're going through the form. Wherever you may be in the movement, you feel the electric shut off, and you go, oh, wait a minute, posture, softness, oh, it's coming back.
All the different skills that are supposed to be there, yeah.
Yeah, and it will help you with that. And then, of course, the whole point that we're making about the basic skills is that you've got to get this because it will help you down the line with other stuff, not only on the martial side, but also in the healing program that you offer, the Fa Gong.
Yes.
So to be able to have that electric.
Yeah, because the foundations are the same. It's just the application that's different. And
Yes.
not just because when you're doing the Fa Gong and the healing like that, you're doing a healing method using all the stuff that's from the Tai Chi, and then it's the other Qigong that's in there for that to be appropriate. But the basic foundational skills, the alignments, the sung, the connections, the kind of connections, and what you're doing with them, and the mind-body integration, and then spirit integration and all that stuff, that's all the same stuff. So it's not like you have to go off and learn something completely different in order to do that. And I know the further along you guys come in the program, the more you're finding the stuff integrates like completely like that, which is appropriate for a real skillful program anyways.
Sheila?
Yeah, no, what I wanted to mention, and I'm not sure exactly where it fits in because it really fits into this entire conversation, but the Gong set that we have there in the first level really ties into everything we've talked about today, as far as coordinating the breath with the movement, as far as transitioning from movement and breath into mind, as far as learning how to feel the different flavors of energy that we're discussing. To me, it's just a fantastic exercise. I think I pretty much do it every day because it just feels so good. And when I teach my students, then they're like, hey, wow, okay, I feel it now. It's sort of activates everything for them before they get into the 8 or the 13, so that they're more sensitized. Because I always tell everyone, you know, you guys are you've all got this already. The question is, you know, how to identify it and how to recognize it, and then how to augment it.
Yep.
You know, and I find that Neigong really helps a lot of people to be able to focus in on what those feelings are.
And then level 2, the intermediate, there's classes in there that actually take that and test it to make sure that it really is happening and you just don't think it's happening. And so that's, yeah, absolutely. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, and well, and to both of your points, Harry and Sheila, I've been seeing a lot of discussion online lately, and not that it's anything new, but a lot of you know, the Tai Chi people who've been doing it forever seem to be of the opinion that you should just perfect your form for like 20 years before you ever even like dip the pinky toe into the you know, chi pond, and you know, don't worry about that energy thing. You just get your physical right better first and all that. And it's, you know, really the energy informs the physical level. Once you need enough physical to get to that kind of energy stage of training and awareness and sensitivity. But then once you have that, the connection to that energy then it becomes what guides your physical postures and tells you whether you're correct or not, and gets you really gets that actual Li level of skill under your belt. Until you've really got the Chi level, you can't actually get the Li level. It's kind of funny that way, but you know, you can have a master put you in the poses, but you can't really understand it. Why the physical, it has to be what it is, until you're like well into a Chi level of study and sensitivity and skill. And so the electric Jing really is, like, for us, the first most fundamental, most primary way of, you know, of tapping into that. And it really does that for you. That is how we use it in our beginning classes, is, you know, when people when their structure is off, once they have that electric Jing, it becomes, okay, feel it. Feel where the electric is wanting to shut off. Why is it wanting to shut off? Explore that. And it becomes this process of self-correction that's just built right into the system. And that,
Part of what goes on with that is that if you're, as a teacher, putting somebody in the right posture, or helping them, telling them what to do to get in the right posture, there's sort of the gross version of that. In other words, are you straight up and down as opposed to leaning over? Okay, I got you straight up and down. Are you trying to relax everywhere so that you've got a little bit of sync? Are your internal connections, your Wu Chi connections and all that correct for what you want? And there's a level where you can eyeball that, and then there gets to be a level where it's a lot harder, where it's small, little bitty small things. They're holding attention somewhere, they've got an impingement somewhere, they've got a little bit of an internal misalignment somehow, and it's just off so small. And some of it is trying to figure out, is this because their body has grown, especially if you're working with somebody who's over the age of 40 or 30 even, sometimes, a lot of times, has their body grown this way, so this is their natural position now, or are they standing like that? And it's hard to tell. You show them the electric like that, and really make sure it's on, and then it helps them to understand they're trying to get the most intense version of that they can, because the more intense, and not because they're trying to make it intense, but because they're trying to make little internal adjustments, and anywhere they can find and feel that's off and put it so that it's correct, and then stronger and stronger and stronger because they're doing that. And better flow really is a better way to say that than stronger, although the intensity of it does jack up a bit as well. And now they're getting better sung, better alignment, better not tensions. If there's a gap somewhere, they start figuring out where the gaps are and really going to very, very correct. And then, of course, you can micro adjust from now until you're 100 years old. And you'll want to, not every minute of every time you're practicing, but over time, just that it keeps getting better and better and better. And then your guide, past a certain basic physical level, is going to be your ability to do the stuff and feel the energy like that. Because there's really any other way you do it, it's not like somebody can eyeball you and see it anymore. It's too small. Okay. And then we have with it the electric ball life force set, where it's fluid and connected, keeping the energy on, kind of what we've been talking about. And this is a requirement for Tai Chi to be functional. It means that you maintain the alignments, you maintain your connection, you maintain your sung, that you keep the energy on by what you're doing, and that you really will need this with every Jing that you learn. If somebody tells me they've got a Jing and I'm looking at all kinds of disconnects in their body and the energy flow and other stuff, I'm going, you might have an idea of, let's say it's wave Jin, right? Or spiraling, Jin, Si Jin, like silk drilling or something like that. And if I'm seeing those kind of breaks, or that the energy wanes a lot or goes down to like nothing in a bunch of places, I'm going, what's supposed to be happening, but that doesn't mean you're doing it. And so you're going to want to use something like the electric life ball, the electric ball life force set, in order to help to really make sure that that's all in there and that the Jing is through and through like that, and bigger and faster and more. And that is the key, that electric ball life force set. That is the one that's key in my mind for helping you to really get that if you've got whatever Jing it is, and there's 36 primary Jings and then a bunch of other kinds. If you're doing that to really make sure that's going on, you're going to have real ability with that. You're going to be able to use it for martial purposes. You're going to be able to use it for healing yourself purposes. If you've gotten to that, if you're working in the levels where you're working with other people, then you're going to be able to use it for helping you with healing other people purposes. But it's because it's that well connected and you have that much control over it, and it's moving that much more correctly. And when I say smoothly, I mean it's got some speed to it because there's not impediment, and all that stuff. And so
part of what I've been talking about actually is what is this is not just the electric Jing, but it is keeping that electric Jing on through the form the whole way through and making sure and checking in on that. And so part of what I've been saying about electric Jing this whole time is assuming that you're doing it
with this.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
So, Sifu, is this like just part of the Jin? You have a 3D Jin DVD set.
This one isn't in that. I don't think.
I know it's in the basic skills.
It's in the basic skills. The Jing set is the fighting Jings, and so it's really specifically things that are very
martially oriented.
Yeah, towards
okay.
Jings, and that have a lot of kind of physical power in them, like just that's sort of their primary. But this one it has a lot. It can have a lot of physical power in it. But it's a lot healthier for you, like for the arthritis and those kinds of things too. And it's it helps inform the posture and all the other stuff that we've talked about.
So is this a separate
so this is in the
DVD,
basic,
or is this part of the level 1?
in the level 1.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and there's and it's covered like thoroughly.
Yep.
In there. It's in that way. Then you will revisit it in the more advanced part of the program, and in the level 2 and up. But then you're doing a lot of other things with it and more and all that. And it's a foundational building block for everything you're going to do that's in level 1 there. And then when we add on the other things that you start to get into, it's with the assumption that you have a command of it at the basic skill level. And if you don't, you're going to have to go get it then. The command of it. Otherwise, there's going to be things that I'm going to explain to you to do, and that you're going to see and or feel, and you're going to be like, I really want to be able to do that, but you're going to have the work of it in order to do that. It assumes, most of the more advanced material assumes a mastery of those things that are in the basic skills. That doesn't mean kill yourself trying to get like nobody's ever had it before. Like okay, I'm going to put 10 years into my level 1. But the thing is that you guys know this, that as we get into the intermediate program, it keeps pointing right back at what you got out of basic skills. Not with every single skill, but if you're having trouble with one, more often than not, the problem actually exists with something that you got in level 1 that needs to be done better and more and that kind of thing. And the same thing's going to be true all the way up to the end of the program, even though there obviously are advanced things where if somebody didn't know, they would, and you said, oh, that goes back to you doing like the Wudong energy ball with electric and magnetic. So they can see, I don't even see how that's possible. Well, try doing that where that stuff's not happening at all. You know, like make sure it's not happening at all. Oh, wait a minute. Or the breath being really connected through. And that's part of the reason why we've done this for these several talks that we're doing this on, because I'm really trying to get across just how fundamental these skills are and how deep they really go, why that's our curriculum and that it's structured this way. So you really kind of get that. And not just you guys should have an idea of it, but for the listeners and stuff too, listeners and watchers.
Cool. So one thing I just want to mention, it was an understanding that came to me very slowly. So I did Tai Chi for a long time. I didn't feel energy at all. And then one day I started to feel it, and that was really cool. And then what I found is over time I could feel the energy of artwork, which is probably a different frequency.
Yes.
But it really enhances, you know, it makes going to a museum sort of a different experience.
Yeah.
And then over time I learned to feel the energy of trees and shrubs and grass, okay? Mm-hmm. And then suddenly my experience of walking in nature was totally different.
Yes.
So it's very cool how, you know, you can be sensitive to one frequency and then over time, the range of frequencies that you're sensitive to enhances and then life becomes richer. So I just wanted to mention that. So there's energy stuff. You know, there's a whole universe of energy within Tai Chi, and then there's a lot of stuff that happens outside of Tai Chi, for which Tai Chi can be a really good stepping stone.
Absolutely. Well, and what it's supposed to do. That is what it's. Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Bill. Anybody else? All right. So I think we kind of hit it for what we're going to do today. And again, a word from our sponsor. Please, if you're wanting to know what these things are about or do these things and you haven't already done it, go to clearmartialarts.com and try out the $47 a month program. Or if you know you just want to buy the level 1 and do that so that you're not doing a monthly subscription, then for the $4.95, do the Clear Tai Chi level 1 package. Then either get it on DVD or do it online. And thank you guys for participating today, and thank you for listening and watching at home. And if you've got any questions at all, please post them where you see this and or send us an email, and we'll be happy to try to get back to you with answers. And thanks for listening and watching, and you guys have a great week, and I hope to talk to most of you before the week's over. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Sifu.
Thank you, Sifu. Bye.
Thank you, Sifu. Everybody take care.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
What is internal power? Most people only understand external exerting power, which is another way of saying tense muscle strength. Bigger, more tense muscles equal more power. That's external power. Internal power comes from pretty much anything except tensing your muscles. There are many sources of internal power, and tapping into them is more of a mind skill than anything else. This is where the phrase mind over matter comes from. My name is Richard Clear, and internal power is what I do. Students come to me for the mind over muscle secrets of internal power that are hard to find anywhere else. Over the past 40 years, I figured out how to get students on the fast track to effortless power. I created a one-of-a-kind online program that is getting such amazing results for my students that I put a money-back guarantee on it. Find out more at internalpowerkeys.com. That's internalpowerkeys.com. Thank you.